That's what I have to say to you, because this week on Metropolis Spotlight is Spider-Man: Death of the Stacys.
It's a classic story. This was one of the very first. This is one of the very first episodes that features the death of a major character in a major or flagship title. So this is a pivotal book and definitely a key issue. If you haven't read it, you definitely need to. Everybody kind of knows, because of the Spider-Man movies, about Mary Jane Parker, who Spider-Man eventually marries. But
until the reboot. Reboot The Amazing Spider-Man is having Gwen Stacy as his first girlfriend, which is...
she was his first girlfriend.
No, Betty Brant. Betty Brant was his first,
yeah.
But Gwen was his first major love, and if Gwen hadn't died in this story, Peter would have married Gwen.
Right.
Now this story is particularly heart-wrenching for me, because after years of reading comics, I decided that I realized I really like Gwen more than Mary Jane. I always thought Peter should have ended up with Gwen Stacy, and that and what great drama. And Stan Lee wasn't even writing the book anymore. It was Gene Colan, I believe.
Right, yes.
But what great drama, what great tragedy to have his greatest nemesis take his love from him. And it was a death that has lasted, actually.
Yeah, she has
it's the longest lasting death in comics, now that I think about it.
Right, she has never returned from the grave, as so
there have been clones, but she's never returned.
No, it's never been her. And what's particularly wrenching about this story is that it's not. It is actually the Goblin that's responsible for her death, because he pushes her off a building. In a manner
of speaking, yes.
But Spider-Man's trying to save her, and he sends down his webs, and you just see it as just a little tiny. You see the snick from his thing, and then you see way down here this little tiny snap.
Yeah.
And it's her neck breaks.
Yeah.
And he realizes that he kind of.
Yeah. The sudden stop of the web line snapped his own girlfriend's neck. And that was the early 70s, and that death has resonated and defined the character ever since.
Yes, it has.
The elements of this storyline have pervaded pop culture. If you've seen the animated series in the 1990s, they basically did the Gwen Stacy arc, but with Mary Jane instead. She falls off a bridge, ends up in a dimensional vortex, and is gone throughout the rest of the show. The first Spider-Man movie kind of did the same thing, where the Goblin has her perched over, held over the edge of a bridge, and let's go, saying choose. So it's something that everybody's familiar with, but not a lot of people that haven't read the books religiously don't realize that that's actually Gwen Stacy that should be getting tossed off the bridge. Not that I condone such behavior, but yeah, it's this.
Well, who does really?
Well, super villains.
Well, yeah.
But so it's absolutely a must read. It's heartbreaking, and it's very key for Mary Jane fans. If you're a fan of Mary Jane, this is the story that started evolving her from a party girl into the woman that would eventually be right for Peter to marry, because it was at the end of this book where she comes to Peter to try and comfort him, and she's always been a wild party girl before, never really acted like she really felt anything for anybody. So Peter gets kind of mad and yells at her and says, listen, I know you can't stand to be around crying people, so why don't you go slink off to a party somewhere? And she decides, no, I'm not going to be that way anymore. So it was the start of the evolution of her character, and that open the gates to for them to eventually get married.
Right.
And the perfect companion piece to this book would be Spider-Man Blue, which we're going to cover at a later date.
That's right.
But yeah, it's
so there will be another spotlight for Spider-Man Blue, but this is actually called The Death of the Stacys, and the reason why is because it's not just Gwen Stacy who dies in this sequence. It's her father passed away
Captain
before
George
her.
Stacey.
Yes, he dies before she does, and actually Peter Parker is very shocked to find out that he's called by his name, even though he's wearing a Spider-Man outfit. So the Captain actually
Stacey
knows who he is. Yeah,
and fully approved of him dating his daughter. Captain Stacey was one of Spider-Man's few friends in the police department. Was always on his side and knew that he was actually a hero. He didn't listen to what J. Jonah Jameson said. He died after saving a child from falling debris during a fight with Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus on a rooftop. Right. Just all around, this is a must.
Yeah, and sort of like adding to the pathos of the whole thing is that he dies in Spider-Man's arms, saying, Peter, please take care of
my
Gwen.
daughter. Yeah.
So yeah, and then just a couple of what was it? Just issues later? Or?
No, it was about 20 issues later or
Okay.
something. Gwen Stacy died in Amazing Spider-Man number 121.
Right.
Yeah, so not a lot of people.
If you ever see that issue at a yard sale,
and you can get it cheap.
Yeah.
That's a key issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a lot of people have read stuff with Gwen Stacy because not a lot of people have read very many back issues.
Right.
But
This is back in
73.
73. So if you weren't reading Spider-Man comics that far back, then you might not even know who Gwen Stacy is because she has been dead since then.
So if you're not familiar with Gwen Stacy, you might want to start here and work your way back and discover why it is I prefer Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, it's an excellent read, and definitely if you can get this, this is a hardcover edition of this. This is Marvel Premiere Edition, and they're only $19.99. And
very nicely bound,
very nicely bound, cloth bound with
dust jacket.
Nice dust jacket. So yeah, nice edition, and printed
excellent
on
printing quality.
printed on beautiful paper, and so it's very bright. It looks really good, and it'd be a great addition to any library. And definitely if you're a comic fan or if you're a Spider-Man fan, this is a story you need to be familiar with, because who knows? Gwen Stacy just might come back someday. It is funny books after all.
Well, and also she might die in the new film
funny,
series.
but,
so be prepared. Read your comics.
That's right.
All right, that's Metropolis Spotlight for now. Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you next time.